Come and listen to my story about a man named Jed. A poor mountaineer barely kept his family fed. And then one day he was shooting at some food, and up through the ground come a bubbling crude oil, that is, black gold, Texas tea. Well, the first thing you know, old Jed's a millionaire. The kinfolk said, Jed, move away from there. Said, California is the place you ought to be. So they loaded up the truck and they moved to Beverly Hills, that is, swimming pools, movie stars.
Well, Geo nerds, here we are above Kumbuka again. No Jeff Tracy today. I figured with that intro we'd poke the algorithm hard enough on the copyright. So today we're going up to Aspley, just on the north side of Brisbane. No rocket science here. Heading over the beautiful north side of Brisbane, there's the Aspley State School right there on top of that hill. Remember that hill? It's important. And that bit of ground in front of it. We're going to delve into that a little deeper later. We're cruising around here. That's a big piece of the Aspley Formation. We'll have a look at that as well. Just over the hypermarket here, looking back up towards it. And I'm going to put a red square there. Just have a look at that. That's pretty important. We'll also come back to that. So all of these happenings, the Aspley Range Wars, happened in this little square. So let's move on and look at the history of it, because there's some big names in here. If you live on the north side of Brisbane, you will know these names because they're on roads. Anyway, let's have a look at what happened. Well, folks, here's the beautiful Aspley State School up on Maundrell Terrace there. Been there since 1890-ish. Here's one of the earliest photos of Aspley you'll see. This is the Matthews farm. And every photo you see of this tells you, and in the caption, this was taken on the site of the Aspley State School. And it isn't. Because if you're at the Aspley State School, you're on top of the hill. And when you're on top of a hill, the one thing you can't see in the background is the hill, which you can in this photo. So I'm going to give a bit of an opinion of where this was. We'll do it right now, actually. So, folks, here we have a 3D LiDAR of the area. That is the old Gympie Road, that orange stripe. We'll see that in a later photo. There's the school, as we know, and we're told that's where the Matthews farm was. Well, it wasn't there. I believe it was down here. And why would you put a farm up on top of the hill? You get no access to water or anything like that. So, and there's a creek there. The old Gympie Road would have been there by then, so I'm sure that's where it was, or somewhere down there. Anyway, that's just my little observation. So let's go on to have a look at, Aspley really, and why it's there and why it's Aspley. Folks, what we have here is a cadastral map from 1928. Cadastral meaning it contains the names of the property owners. Well, it contains the property boundaries, and the older maps contain the names of the property owners. And this one covers pretty much what we call Aspley today. Back in those days it was called Cabbage Tree Creek. Hence my interest in it. I'm doing another video on Cabbage Tree Creek, which is how we got here. After that it was called Soldiers Flat. And then after that it was called Aspley. And if you look on this map, you'll see a name, Morris, J. Morris, John Morris. He and his wife were some of the original settlers. They selected land here, just bought it off the government, the surveyed Crown land, and they started up an orchard. And they were growing various types of fruits, and they named it Aspley Grove because they came from Nottinghamshire, and they were married in a place in Nottinghamshire called Aspley Hall. So that's how Aspley got its name. I have covered that once before. No doubt I'll cover it again, but not in this video. So let's go on to see how these range wars started, because Morris is involved. So it all starts like this. In March of 1889, John Morris, William Brown, William Wallen contacted the Queensland government to request a school in their district. As a result, a local committee comprising of Morris, Brown, Wallen, Robert Graham and Thomas Ridley was formed. I think you'll recognise those as roads on the north side. It's Graham Road, Ridley Road. They issued a formal written request that detailed 4 possible school sites. John Shirley, who was the school inspector, visited these sites and rejected all 4 sites as they were too close to existing schools. He recommended a more central location be found for the proposed school before the matter could even be reconsidered. Local residents responded by writing to the minister in May of 1889, offering a new school site near the corner of Gympie and Albany Creek Roads on land owned by William Brown. You'll see on the map W. Brown. It's also where the hypermarket is today. At the same time, another local, Sam Maundrell, of Maundrell Terrace fame, was offering 2 blocks of his land for possible school sites on what is now Maundrell Terrace, strangely enough. So while the residents were able to meet the government stipulation providing 1/5 of the school's building cost, they couldn't agree on where to build the school. So Maundrell and Wallen wrote to the Moreton Mail newspaper in August of 1889, urging the government to take up Maundrell's offer. Brown and his supporters, including Robert Graham, retaliated by having a letter of support for Brown's offer printed in the Telegraph a week later. So the Aspley school wars were on. Now, they had a public meeting at Wallen's Hotel called the Royal Exchange. And we'll look at that after this piece because it's where the Aspley pub is now. It was called the Royal Exchange. That pub was built in the 1930s. The old pub was built in 1887 or something. It's a really old pub. Anyway, they had a public meeting at this pub in September, and the licensee proclaimed both free drinks and his support for the school to be built on Maundrell's land. Well, in the end, it wasn't built on anyone's land that had proposed this, and it was built right where it is now, on land owned by a guy called Marshall. So that was the Aspley Range Wars. Let's have a little look at the details of what was happening here. So folks, let's have a quick talk about the Aspley Hotel, the Royal Exchange as it was known, built in 1875. It's an old hotel, lasted right through till really the 1930s, where in 1934 Addison, is a name you hear a lot in Brisbane, built this place. I want to draw your attention to something else. First of all, where the bottle shop is where the old pub was. And over here is the original Gympie Road. Old Gympie Road is still there, and it is not where Gympie Road is today. That 6-lane edifice that you see going through there is not the original Gympie Road. It's the one on the slip road is the original Gympie Road. Well, folks, we've seen how the range wars go, but just something you may want to know is where the original Morris orchard was. And so I've overlaid it here. In front of us there is Albany Creek Road. There's a storage building there. I'll put some marks on here for you. And you can see the old Morris farm. And in fact, the Morris farm boundaries are still fossilised in the property boundaries that are there today. I'll draw them up here now. So, yeah, so this is where Aspley Grove was, which got turned into eventually Aspley, obviously. So it wouldn't be a T-Rocks video if we didn't have a bit of geology. So what we've got here is a 3D LiDAR of the place, and I've wrapped the geology onto it for you. The dark green up in the corner there is tuff. It's the northernmost point that the tuff massif exists. There's a few speckled bits up north, but this is it. The nice light green one is the Aspley Formation, which is a sedimentary formation, got a bit of hydrocarbon in it in places, and the yellow is gravel, and the pink at the top is, of course, our good old friends, the schist, the Narrenleaf Fernvale shales. So anyway, that's our geology. Well, folks, that's it for this week. This is a bit of a spin-off of the Cabbage Tree Creek video. It didn't really fit into it, but it was certainly part of it. The whole place was called Cabbage Tree Creek, which is where I got it from. Anyway, I'm still working on that. That'll be finished pretty soon. And I hope you enjoyed this. We've given the old algorithm a bit of a copyright poke, but it seems to be responding all right. So anyway, you know what I'm going to say. Keep rocking. T-Rock's out.
Now it's time to say goodbye to Jed and all his kin. And they would like to thank you folks for kindly dropping in. You're all invited back next week to this locality to have a heaping helping of their hospitality. Hillbilly, that is. Set a spell. Take your shoes off. Y'all come back now. Here.
This has been a Film Waste presentation.